What is the most extreme invention? What about the wheel? You can roll it down a hill, slap a juggler on it maybe, but what about two wheels? Okay, now we're getting somewhere. You got bikes, you got motorcycles, and most importantly, you got razor scooters. Three wheels? But what happens if you put four wheels together? You slap a wooden board on it and you make a skateboard. My thesis for this video is that this invention is the most extreme invention that mankind has ever dreamed of. Why? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because it ushered in the era of extreme. Street skating, vert skating, Tony Hawk pro skating, X Games, Vans, rocket power, tech decks, Johnny Tsunami. Today, we're gonna explore skateboarding culture and how this single invention created the most extreme era in human history. The era of extreme. Like the birth of all things, the birth of skateboarding comes from surfing. Well, actually, the birth of skateboarding predates surfing because it stems from mankind's insatiable urge to ride something, but anyway, surfing was first introduced to Santa Cruz, California in July of 1885 by three teenage princes from Hawaii. Did you know that that actually happened? Literally, Hawaiian royalty gifted America with surfing. Then another Hawaiian native, referred to as the Duke, popularized surfing in America by doing tours in surf competitions. His sexy surfing prowess and thighs were iconic for everyone, and because he was such a major figurehead in popularizing surfing, we immortalize him in statue. Here is me standing in front of a statue of the Duke in Santa Cruz for extreme comparison. Look at those thighs. Once we get a hit off that extreme, something starts to brew. But hold that thought. Back on solid ground, another hobby slowly started taking shape. Many ingredients added and being melded together to form what we know as the skateboard. The 1940s first introduced the scooter skate. When roller skating was popular, some unnamed geniuses were taking off the pivoting axles from the roller skates and attaching them to planks of wood. A silly crate on a stupid piece of wood with wheels. Ineffective? Sure. Barely rideable? Yeah. Well, by the 50s, surfing has become so popular that mankind wants to do this insane act on concrete. That's how you know we're serious, when we want to do a water activity on concrete. That's some crackhead behavior. Extreme behavior. The earliest iterations of skateboards were known as sidewalk surfers. Skateboarding wasn't even a worthwhile enough concept on its own. It was just seen as a mere solid ground copycat of surfing. So now you got kids zipping up and down the streets calling it sidewalk surfing. Goes like this. Grab your board and go sidewalk surfing with me. Skateboarding wasn't anything more than going forward kind of fast because the wheels were ass. The wheels of early skateboards were made of steel, man. What the heck? Who decided that that was extreme? Well, I mean, actually, I guess that is pretty extreme. Then we get a tech upgrade. Clay wheels. Yeah, these are very incremental steps forward, but you gotta start somewhere. Why weren't we experimenting with cardboard wheels? With the pivoting axle from the roller skates and clay wheels, these upgrades actually made skateboards so much more versatile than they used to be. Because skateboards were now more accessible, this would then make their popularity and production start to explode. It's important to recognize that at this point in history, skateboarding popularity was directly influenced by the tech. A new tech upgrade meant more possibilities and innovation. More innovation influenced more tech upgrades. Throughout the 1960s, popularity of the hobby started to grow, and you get the first instances of surf shops actually selling skateboards, getting into the hands of anyone. Okay, now that we got some of that background out of the way, we can start to get to the real extreme part. Yes! When? 1970s. Where? A magical little place in Santa Monica called Dogtown, a lower income stretch of land encompassing South Santa Monica, Venice, and Ocean Park. In this grungy stretch of turf, there came along some punk kids. Let's break that down. What is punk? While the punk movement is most easily recognized in the punk rock scene in the mid-1970s, at its core, it's emblematic of an unrest in the youth, who were outcast from conventional society. Common punk characteristics include being anti-establishment, expressing yourself in ways that were countercultural, DIY ethics, sticking it to the man, also nose rings. Something I find really unique about subcultures like the punk movement is that it is founded on being outsiders in opposition to the established order. When you have a group of outsiders in particular, they tend to stick together as a group in more profound ways, contributing to a social capital that feeds into each other rather than some established institution. All right, now, who were the kids? 12 young surf rats, including Alan Sarlo, Jim Muir, Shogo Kubo, Bob Biniak, Nathan Pratt, Stacy Peralta, Chris Cahill, Paul Constantio, Tony Alva, Jay Adams, Peggy Oki, Wenzel Rummel. These kids were salty spittoon kind of kids and loved surfing so much that they would frequently surf the most gnarly spot in Santa Monica. This burned down old pier filled with debris and dangerous locals energy. This is what punk kids means in this context. The punk kids surfed all the time, but when the surf was bad, they did the next best thing. Some good old sidewalk surfing. They would skate down these hills that faced the ocean and weave and carve like there were waves. One of these kids in particular, Jay Adams, was a creative genius. When skating, he really wanted to imitate his favorite surfer, Larry Bertleman, who was known for carving these waves like a Christmas ham and running his hand through the water, being connected to the wild beast of nature that he was riding. Jay Adams, one of the more naturally talented of the group, took this concept and tried applying this in his skateboarding. Naturally, the whole group got obsessed with doing this surfing technique on ground. Unknowingly, they all started to create a style of skateboarding that was never seen before. At this time, a humble little surf shop called Zephyr Surf started to notice. This was the local surf shop that all these punk kids would hang out at instead of their own homes. Owners Jeff Ho, Skip Emblung, and Craig Stesick were like the unofficial dads of these punk kids. And in their fatherly wisdom, they started to notice something special that these kids were doing with the skateboards. So they started to put together a team, the Z-Boys. When the Z-Boys rolled up to competition, they blew minds. Competitions usually included a downhill slalom, weaving in between cones, and a freestyle, which is essentially just kind of dancing on a board. You see, it's important to recognize at this time that even though there were, skate competitions, this really wasn't seen as anything more than just like a goofy fad. Nothing more than like a kiddie circus trick like hula hooping or yo-yoing. Skateboarding was literally grouped in with those at the time. The Z-Boys took that and frickin' snapped it over their knees. When the Z-Boys came in, they were ripping it up, twisting it up. They were getting low to the ground, touching the concrete like Larry Bertleman would to the waves. He would touch to caress them. This new style was so aggressive and intense that the common folk, they did not know how to process this. They wet their pants. Wholesome sidewalk surfing was dipped into punk and skateboarding emerged. Under the feet of the revolutionary Z-Boys, skating would then make another dramatic evolution from a lowly Magikarp to a freaking Gyarados, and for two reasons. The first, another tech upgrade. In 1972, we get the polyurethane wheel, which exponentially improved the skateboarding experience. The rubber wheels provided so much more traction and speed, making the technical ability of skateboarding so much easier. Instead of those dank piles of clay that we slapped on these trucks, how did we even do that? The second thing? A drought. In 1976, a severe drought hit California, as usual. Water was so scarce that they weren't serving water at restaurants. You weren't allowed to water your lawn or maintain your pools. What this meant was that the pools were starting to dry up, leaving them empty. Then the Z-Boys did this. They literally did this. I'm role-playing. Whoa, look at that empty pool. What if we took a skateboard in there and tried to ride the sides of the pool like waves? They drop in, weaving around the contours and slopes of this pool, turning this empty, dry-ass pit into fertile ground for creativity. Thus, pool skating is born. Three members of the Z-Boys in particular were some of the most boundary-pushing and skilled in this movement. They were Stacy Peralta, Tony Alva, and Jay Adams. As these three added their own unique brushstrokes of creativity and personality to this new thing, they were turning this fun hobby into an art. Craig Stesick, remember him, one of the owners of Zephyr Surf? He started to photograph and document this new art form that was being built by these kids. And thank God that he did, because this was the early stages of one of the most extreme guerrilla movements ever to grace this earth. After carefully observing what these kids were doing, Craig started to develop some really poignant thoughts about this new performance art. One thing that he said was, 200 years of American technology had unwittingly created a cement playground with unlimited potential, but it was in the minds of 11-year-olds that could see that potential. Hey, I want to try skateboarding. Yeah, sure, go for it. Anyway, Stacy, Tony, and Jay continue experimenting innovating, and pushing this new art form. This was completely new ground that they were carving out, and its only limits were really how much they were willing to impress each other. These three were outsiders, but in this space, they found a sense of identity. And when they were actually able to contribute to it, to build it, they found themselves. Now, Stacy, Tony, and Jay are really interesting from a character perspective at this point in skate history. In my opinion, I feel like they completely embody the three aspects of what skate culture is, and how it set the tone for skating here on out. Stacy was the most presentable, mature, and professional. He saw the bigger picture of this movement. He saw it, as he described it, as a performance art. He is a creator in the true sense, and not only was excellent at his craft, but wanted to expand it, to build it, to bring it the attention that it deserves. Tony embodies the rock star ethos of skating. Everybody looked to him as the quintessential icon who made skating look like the coolest thing you've ever seen. He had swag, he had a huge ego, but most importantly, he had style. Not only was this true for his personality, but his skating. And then there's Jay, who embodied the true punk nature of skating. While Jay was arguably the most naturally creative and talented of the group, he wasn't really concerned with building the media like Stacy or making it look cool like Tony. He was just concerned with living it, escaping in it. I believe that these three create a pretty perfect Venn diagram of what skate culture is. Creative, boundary pushing, artistic, stylish, cool as hell, and also punk. While Tony Alva and Jay Adams continue to skate and do their own thing, they're punks. You can't tell them what to do. Stacy eventually takes the role as the Nick Fury of the skate world and starts to put together a team. A team of upcoming kids who would take skateboarding to explosive new heights. He called them the Bones Brigade. Lance Mountain, pro skater whose funny antics were an iconic part of the Bones Brigade skate tapes. Mike McGill, creator of the revolutionary McTwist where you do a full 180 in midair. Tommy Guerrero, pioneer in the street skate scene. Alan Ollie Gelfand, creator of the first pool skating ollie. Tony Hawk. Steve Caballero, the most loyal skater who still skates for Pal Peralta to this day at age 59. And then Rodney Mullen, creator of the flat ground ollie and street skating as we know it today. This iconic team, curated and masterminded by Stacy as director and visionary, would play a vital role in making skateboarding break into the mainstream. The Bones Brigade was foundational for skate culture for so many reasons. You could do a whole separate deep dive on that story, or honestly just watch the Bones Brigade documentary. But what I want to focus on in particular are two of the members, because together they set the standard for the two major branches of skateboarding. Tony Hawk, who is responsible for evolving park and vert skating, and Rodney Mullen, who created street skating. Let's start with Tony Hawk. In the early days of the Bones Brigade, he was pretty good at skating, but Stacy Peralta saw something very special in him. A determination that was unparalleled. He was constantly clowned on by the true punk skaters at the time for being just like this floppy-haired, helmet-wearing, string-bean kind of kid. Ugh, what a loser. But as he grew and developed his skating abilities, he absolutely dominated in vert. Vert skating was around before Tony Hawk, but the ways in which Hawk excelled in vert skating literally took it to new heights. He had invented numerous tricks, including the Madonna, rodeo flip, kickflip McTwist, to 720. And at the 1999 X Games, he landed the 900. Whoa, dude, slow down, we're not there yet. Hawk was a true pioneer for vert skating in so many ways. And as his image and influence became so immense over the years, he was eventually seen as the face of skateboarding in the mainstream. He's like what Ninja is to Fortnite, but he's actually good, don't worry. Next, we got Rodney Mullen. If you are at all trying to learn how to do a skateboard trick, it's very likely that the first trick you're gonna start off with is an ollie. By the way, let's peek over at the skate cam and see how that ollie is coming. Yeesh. What you have to understand about Mullen is that he was a phenomenal freestyler. Incredibly skilled at him just doing tricks on flat ground, just him and the board. Mullen's creative ingenuity and honestly just impressive understanding of physics led him to create the revolutionary ollie. Well, actually, the first person to create the ollie was Alan Ollie Gelfand, another member of the Bones Brigade. In 1976, Gelfand accidentally figured out this technique when he was skating in a pool. The condition of the pool was so crappy that it actually led him to a new discovery. Essentially, when he was going up on the pool, he popped the board over the coping and caught air above the coping of the pool. Yeah, okay. But the thing is that Rodney Mullen created the flat ground ollie. It looks like this. Okay, so what? You pop the board a little bit, catch some air off the flat ground. What's so cool about that? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because it created street skating? That pop of air made it possible to do tricks. Any trick. All tricks. Anywhere. If you can catch air on flat ground, you can catch air on anything. That means you don't need a skate park. The world is your skate park. God, that's too extreme! Oh. Stairs? Not just for walking, you dumb pedestrian. How about gapping them? Rails? Oh, I thought they were just for helping me catch my balance when I sneeze too hard. Nope. Some weird-ass chain connected to a slab of concrete? Who even put this there? What is this for? Whoa, what? How did he... What was that? Rodney Mullen didn't just create the oddity, he created a paradigm shift. It meant that skating wasn't just confined to the context of a skate park or pools. It made entire cities skate parks. A skateboard made you look at the world differently. It's the same thing that the Z-Boys did when they thought, whoa, look at that empty pool. What if we took a skateboard in there and tried to ride the sides of the pool like waves? Mullen is one of my favorite forefathers of skating, not only because he's a creative genius, but also because he created a vocabulary for the skate culture to express itself in ways that it never had before. While Hawk and Mullen occupied two really different sectors of skateboarding, their drive and innovation was the same, and they constantly looked at each other back and forth to gain inspiration. Hawk would see something that Mullen would do, and that would inspire his vert skating. Mullen would see something that Hawk would do, and that would inspire his street skating. This skill and drive between each other both made them foundational figures in their respective styles. Now, this is an interesting time for extreme. Between the mid-80s and early 90s, skateboarding declined dramatically in relevancy, almost to the point where people thought it was on the verge of extinction. Tony Hawk himself even got a day job because he didn't think skating was going to survive. It wasn't until the mid-90s until skating really started to find its footing. Following the legacy of the Bones Brigade, there are three gigantic movements that made skateboarding explode into the mainstream. First is the skate vid. In 1987, the Bones Brigade dropped the first ever skateboarding video, the Bones Brigade Video Show. Before this point, skateboarding really only occupied the magazine space, in the occasional televised competition. While skate mags were incredible and helped tremendously in popularizing the movement early on, skate vids finally put to motion these insane feats of physics. A 35-minute video featuring what the Bones Brigade does best, tearing it up like freaking maniacs. It follows Lance Mountain goofing around on the streets, making the world his playground. Early street skating. And passing by other skaters from the Bones Brigade doing what they do best. Rodney Mullen doing his freestyle routine. Tony Hawk hitting the half pipe, and so on. Expecting to sell only a couple hundred VHS copies, they end up selling tens of thousands, giving inspiration to a new generation of skaters everywhere. Skate vids were gasoline to the skateboarding fire because it showed the possibilities of skating and inspired many young skaters to up their freaking game. In the 90s to early 2000s, skate vids became a staple for brands to showcase their incredible skaters. Some notable skate vids include Girl, yeah right, Baker 3, the DC video, Modus Operandi by Transworld Skates, America's This Is Skateboarding, Alien Workshop's Photosynthesis, Almost Round 3, to name a few. Just a couple of my faves. The next monumental accomplishment of skateboarding into the mainstream is the large-scale exhibition of extreme, the X Games. You know what the X stands for? Extreme! Debuting in 1995, the first Summer X Games was hosted by Providence Newport in Rhode Island. Featured skateboarding, BMX, motocross, a bunch of other insane things. Almost 200,000 people gathered together in worship of the most insane, mind-blowing things that people were capable of. Reception was so great that in 1997, they introduced the Winter X Games. Because what's more extreme than being extreme in extreme cold? Skateboarding's legitimacy was further proven as events like these gained more traction, reaching up to 270,000 attendees for the 1999 X Games, which is when Tony Hawk, you remember him, makes a groundbreaking achievement on air. After 11 failed attempts, he lands a trick that many thought not possible. Not the impossible, that's a different trick. It was the 900. 900! It's when you get enough air up a half pipe to do not one, not two, but 2.5 rotations. 900 degrees! Tony Hawk at the 1999 X Games blessed the extreme gods with the 900.
Are you kidding me? Yeah, look at this!
The significance of this event was unparalleled. Skateboarding evolved on this day. Not only was this a gigantic win for skaters all around the world, but also for Mr. Ninja of Skateboarding. Sorry, I'm gonna stop doing that now. Tony Hawk's chokehold as the face of skateboarding would only be solidified a couple months later in August of that same year, 1999. That was when the first real video game about skateboarding came out. Say it with me now. Tony Hawk Pro Skater. What could you possibly do in this game? Maybe manage the economic growth of a colony that you built from the ground up? No! There's no time. You skate. A simple yet effective game where you skate. What else could you possibly want in life? You collect tapes like the ones we just talked about. You try to land sick combos. You grind rails you never thought grindable in the corporeal realm. A game like this, at a time like this, garnered so many positive reviews across across the board, the skateboard. And it was the third highest selling PlayStation game of that year. The best part of all is that it didn't even matter if you could stand on a skateboard or even own one. You could skate now, giving you control of some of the best skaters at the time. You could skate freely in these stages, living the life that you've always wanted. An extreme one. This game was released right at the cusp of when something was brewing in the gut of the culture. A disgusting hunger, an insatiable thirst, an irresistible urge to live young and die extreme. There's a very simple phenomenon that farts around in the human psyche, and it goes a little something like this. Yeah, I want to try that. Now that kids were able to bust some crazy moves in Tony Hawk Pro Skater, they're getting that itch, the fever, the need to ride. You see, the early 2000s wasn't a time when people had to go somewhere. No, they had to ride somewhere. Companies everywhere would see how disgustingly itchy we were getting, and they would create new tools to help us itch the itches with. The first Razor scooter was launched in the year 2000. New millennia, new mode of transportation. Game-changing, compact, extreme on the go. Pull that thing out of your backpack, transform it, and boom, you're riding. That same year, it was named Toy of the Year. The Razor was amazing, but maybe caught a bad rep, between the skaters. It was kind of like a boogie boarder to surfer relationship, maybe. But those Razor freaks, they would do some crazy stuff. And they would survive many an ankle smash just to pull off some of those tricks. Show some freaking respect. You know what else came out in the year 2000? A product from a little company we like to call Healing Sports Limited. Take one guess as to what they were up to. Heelys, biatch! Why use a skateboard or even a razor when you can lodge freaking wheels right into your foot, your heel? If you ever saw a person on flat ground but you saw them kind of doing this thing, you know exactly what that meant. That meant that they were covert extreme. Heelys are a great example of mankind's insatiable desire to insert wheels directly into the body so that we can become the vehicle of extreme instead of some external thing. Evolution hasn't brought us there yet, but it will. It inevitably will. You know what else we got from Healing Sports Limited? Take a bath, you hipster, because we got soaps. They were popping out bangers at the time. Shoes that had a plastic concave divot in the arch of your foot so that you could freaking grind edges and rails with just your feet. I had a pair of these. Did I grind rails? No, not really. It was more of a statement than anything. The statement was, I'm not extreme, but I want to appear as if I am. So what do you do if a life of extreme is just too extreme for you, like it was for me? Maybe you're not physically and mentally able to handle bombing a hill at 50 miles per hour on a tiny little wooden board. What do you do? Tech decks. If you can't handle big extreme, then try small extreme. Innovation comes in many shapes and sizes, normal size and then also small size. Luckily, you could do the exact same thing on both. There's literally no difference. Remember our guy Lance Mountain from the Bones Brigade? He is widely credited to birthing fingerboarding from his loins. There's this shot in the Bones Brigade video, Future Primitive, where he's just like riding this little skateboard keychain in a sink. And this is considered the first real footage of fingerboarding. I know what you're thinking. Tiny skateboarding? What? Why are we not beating up these kids and taking their lunch money? Oh my God. No! It can't be! These guys are doing insane kickflips on a tech deck before you can even think about stepping onto a board. They're building small bowls, insane ramps and fixtures that they can tear it up with just these two. Just these two. You see that? That's all you need to be extreme. But tech deck isn't as public as actually skating outside. Usually, I'm tech decking in the bathroom with the door closed. So how do I signal to my friends and family that I'm extreme? Even if I'm not carrying my board or tech deck on my person. What about some sort of combined fibers that the gods of extreme wove together themselves that when draped over your pale bod illuminate with the aura of extreme skate clothing? It's skate clothing. Slap some Vans on that pale bod, would you? How about a little bit of Volcom? Chunky ass shoes, normal ass shoes, super extreme wide pants, normal extreme wide pants, Thrasher shirt, World Industry shirt. I love those. Or no shirt. Whether you skated or not, if you were a teen in the early 2000s, you were were probably wearing skate clothing, let's be honest. Now, some would say that you'd be a poser for repping the clothing if you don't actually skate. Here's the key though, you carry a skateboard around with you at all times so that people think you're legit. Or you can carry a tech deck if, the fingerboarders are around. Also, it helps if you could stand on the board sometimes. You don't need to like roll anywhere or anything, but if you could just stand on the board for a while, people will start getting the idea that you're extreme. This is how I did it back in the day. If it wasn't enough that you put on your extreme shirt and your extreme shoes to ride to your extreme job, to do your extreme work, to ride back to your extreme home, you'd then sit down on the couch, turn on the TV, peel back your wind-blasted islands and find that extreme was there too. Johnny Tsunami, motocrossed, Brink, rocket power. Whoa. The most extreme. Johnny Kapala, back on board. Jackass. Disney Channel was responsible for a lot of these because they knew what the kids wanted. Not with the last one, the other ones. Not only did we need to be extreme ourselves, but we needed to indoctrinate, to brainwash the youth into extreme. You're gonna watch these shows because I want you to be extreme one day, son. You're gonna make your dad proud, and you're gonna gap the 10 stare, or I will not love you anymore, okay? You got that? People are worried about kids getting into drugs. Yeah, I'd rather them hit a half pipe instead of a crack pipe any day. Otto and Reggie, Rocket, Twister, and Squid probably did more for kids than Dare ever did. I'm just kidding. That's probably not true. Probably. On the opposite side of the spectrum from Rocket Power, we have Jackass. Not a kids show, but an equally extreme one. I bring up these two shows because I think they're both really emblematic of the mainstream's obsession with extreme at this time, but both in completely different sectors. You have Rocket Power, which introduces the concept of extreme to the kiddos, and then Jackass, which introduces a lot of medical bills to the budding young men of America. Might seem goofy, but as I've been doing research for this video, my appreciation for Jackass has increased dramatically, especially as it relates to skateboarding culture. The show was just a collection of really crude, really stupid, and absurdly dangerous stunts performed by a group of dudes who really embody that punk spirit. Even though skating is not a part of the show, I think they deeply share that punk spirit in common. In my opinion, I think Jackass retains two important truths parallel to skateboarding. It embodies the punk spirit, and the punk spirit, if fully realized, is destructive in nature, either towards others or towards yourself. As skateboarding started to take over the streets, you get a general rise in dislike for skateboarders. This aspect of skate culture is so inherently punk because it looks at our public infrastructure, gives it the finger, and just grinds all over it. And for the general public, that can be pretty destructive. It's because of this fact that awakens the true arch nemesis of skateboarders, the security guard. Security guards have been at war with skaters for years, and it has to stop now. We have to take this moment to address a very serious issue. Skate hate. Let's put an end to skate hate. You've seen it, maybe you've contributed to it, but we need to protect our borders. Just about everywhere you go, they're putting up skate hate signs. Do you see the slander to the skate community? It's disgusting. The non-wheel riding people of the world are trying to shut down skating. But I hope this video can show you the beauty in what they're doing. Not only is this extremely impressive stuff, but it's extremely dangerous too. The stakes for skate is really high, at least 10 stairs. Take a look at what this guy's doing. And what is he not wearing? Right, a condom. But he's also not even wearing a helmet. Skateboarding is so punk that it spits in the face of the traditional value of general safety, which is crazy because with great skating skill comes great danger. Doing a simple grind on a curb, that's not that bad. What about a 50-50 rail grind down a couple dozen steps with kinks in the railing? Oh, that's scary, man. Where's my tech deck? This is a performance art that has great cost in it. The destruction of your body. The more skilled and adventurous you get at skating, it simultaneously becomes more dangerous. It's hard to get a true sense of the danger when you're just watching a skate video with all the perfectly landed tricks cut together. But it likely took many instances of falling on concrete just to land it. I can't think of that many athletic endeavors that are so predicate on that reality of danger. Like maybe something like football or rugby or any other extreme sport. But the thing is, more often than not, they're probably wearing some gear or some kind of precaution to protect themselves. Skateboarders? No, I'm gonna pee in your helmet, you freaking weenie. What are you going to Skater Hut Jr. or something? There's a really poignant moment in the Tony Hawk documentary, Till the Wheels Fall Off, where you get a lot of the iconic members from the Bones Brigade talking about how hard skating has been on their body over the years. Some of them deal with a lot of chronic pain and, joints not moving right and whatnot. In 2022, Tony Hawk broke his femur at age 53. And not because he was getting a little bit older and happened to, twist his ankle falling off the backyard deck. No, because he was trying to land a McTwist at age 53. This is why we have to protect our skaters. They're falling off of rails. They're falling from half pipes. They're probably falling off of roofs and skyscrapers and stuff. They don't deserve the hate on top of that. End skate hate. The comment section below is actually a petition to end skate hate. Please sign below. Wow, after such an incredible rise of an art form, you gotta remember that all things come to an end. The bubble pops eventually. But not in this case, because skating is still alive and well. Are we as obsessed with skating as we were in the early 2000s? Maybe not. But it is still just as relevant and even more dignified. So where is skating now? Well, first, the ladies are more involved. It's obvious from the jump that skating has been pretty male-dominated. I mean, look at Johnny Tsunami. He sees this guy tearing it up, being super extreme on the slopes, and then he finds out it's a girl?
That's not how it happened.
Are you freaking kidding me? How could this happen? Who let women tear it up on the slopes? Who let women tear it up on the slopes? Oh, Johnny, you sexist creepazoid. Women have been extreme for a very long time. 1964, you got Patty McGee, the first female professional skateboarder. 1975, you got Peggy Oki, one of the Z-Boys, even though she's a girl actually. 1988, you got Cara Beth Burnside, the first female skater featured on the cover of Thrasher. Moving ahead to 2016, you got Nora Vasconcelos, who became the first woman to join the Adidas skateboarding team. 2019, Nike SB releases Gizmo, the first all-female skate vid. Women have been there throughout skating history, Johnny. I don't want to freaking hear it. But today, according to Go Skate, women apparently make up roughly 40% of the skateboarding demographic. That's incredible. There are more women in skating than ever before, and it's better off for it. These women are super talented and pushing forward skateboarding with their own unique style and approach, which is super important for the evolution of this art form. Skating is also on the web. Surfing the web? I think not. Skating the web. With the rise of the internet, skateboarding naturally found a place there. Extreme videos were first introduced in 2007, when you have the first instances of skate videos being uploaded to the web, a website called The Barracks. This practice has slowly caught on over the years, like Thrasher, being a major internet outlet for skating. And it makes so much sense too. Skateboarding clips are so short, it just needed to be online. In 2020 and beyond, you got Skate Talk. Honestly, I don't know if there's a better platform for short skate vids like TikTok. Because skate media has evolved with the online space, it has therefore become a global phenomenon now. Skating has become more diverse than ever before. And not only has it just caught on in other countries, but other countries are getting really good at it too. Brazil has been popping off in the skating scene, as well as Japan and Australia too, as we'll see in a moment. But the single most impressive feat that skateboarding has accomplished is that it made its way into the Olympics. In 2015, Japan was the first to opt for skateboarding in the Olympics, and it would make its first appearance in the Summer Olympics of 2020, which was then, the 2021 Olympics. And not only that, 5 of the 12 medalists were Japanese. How did this even happen? Japan hates skateboarding. They are constantly shutting it down over there. But you got Yuto Hiragome winning gold in street. You got Momiji Nishida winning gold in women's street. Sakura Yosuzumi takes gold in women's park. And Australian Keegan Palmer took gold for men's park. None of the gold medalists were even American. And I don't say that because I'm upset America lost. I'm saying that because this is proof that people all over the world are just as dedicated to skating as we are. And based on the medal count, they might be even a little more passionate about skating than we are. And that brings us to the 2024 Olympics in Paris, which just happened this past summer. Keegan Palmer returns and once again takes gold in men's park, along with Yuto Hiragome, who takes gold in men's street again. And for the women, we have newcomers who take gold. Koko Yoshizawa taking gold in women's street, and Arisa True taking gold in women's park. We also have more incredible American skaters like Jagger Eaton and Nyjah Houston, who took silver and bronze respectively in men's street. It was really incredible to see a lot of returning faces, but also a lot of new faces duking it out for medals. But above all, my favorite thing in watching the Olympic skateboarding were moments like this. Keegan Palmer takes gold in men's park, and his direct competitors just rush him and celebrate him right then and there. They are so genuinely happy that he takes gold. And I know this kind of thing happens in other sports too, of course. But after exploring this movement and culture so deeply, what I see here is rooted in what Stacy, Tony, and Jay experienced. Even though these are Olympic level skaters, they are the same as the Z-Boys skating pools. They're so genuinely excited and joyful to see this performance art that they're all in together, be successful. Rodney Mullen describes this perfectly. Contributing to skate culture is a cycle of taking something, making it your own, and then returning it back to the community. The greater the contribution, the greater the expression of individuality. This is really important for belonging in the skate community. I know that this embrace isn't just a platitude of respect and congratulations, but a deep joy that the art form that they're all participating in is being spectacularly displayed by their fellow peers. I know that every sport has its own unique history, but I think skateboarding really is something special. It truly started as a kind of fun and entertaining fad until a bunch of outsiders, a bunch of punk kids revolutionized it and turned it into a performance art. With their unique outsider perspective, they took this normal hobby and turned it into something beautiful. Skateboarding is pretty punk in origin, but also has been dignified to the level of Olympic. And crazy enough, skateboarding is still looked down upon in a lot of societies. At least if you're skating street, you're probably gonna get shut down at some point. But even despite that, despite the pain and the blood you could shed for this, the truly extreme amount of dedication and community that this movement has makes this an art form that should remain in culture forever. This is a sport created by outsiders, an art performed by the outcast, and now accepting of anyone. Craig Stesick, who observed skateboarding in its early stages, said this: "Skaters by their very nature are urban guerrillas. They make everyday use of the useless artifacts of technological burden and employ the handiwork of government corporate structure in 1,000 ways that the original architects could never dream of. Skateboarding is a way of looking at the world differently, the extreme way." And that is something worth keeping alive in our culture forever. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching through this video, especially if you've made it this far. I know it's a pretty long one, but it's a topic I've been pretty interested in looking back at for a while now. I wanted to get this done in the summer, but yeah, that's just kind of how things go sometimes. I also really appreciate riding with me during this video topic ADD I'm kind of going through. I'm really thankful if you decided to watch through this. Also, thank you so much to my members who have been supporting me in this journey. Thank you to my members and everybody who is kind enough to watch. If whatever this is interesting to you, consider subscribing. I'm gonna do some more of this kind of stuff. And yeah, peace.